We often project absolute perfection onto the most revered figures of history and religion. But if you look closely at the original records, those pristine reputations inevitably show cracks, revealing deep, undeniable moral flaws. These ancient texts actually function as impartial incident reports. Instead of handing us a sanitized myth, they record ethical breaches and human failures with striking transparency. We see this in the record of Abraham entering the territory of Gerar in 1898 BC. The moment he crosses that border, his behavior shifts. He drops the posture of a faith-driven leader and initiates a cold, highly calculated strategy for self-preservation, a survival algorithm. Understanding human morality requires examining the hostile environments that force these ethical compromises, rather than expecting a spotless behavioral record. Gerar was an unpredictable geopolitical system. Abraham was a wanderer with no local authority, no legal protection, and a highly vulnerable household. He conducts an environmental scan and concludes that the local culture lacks an overarching moral restraint, what he identifies as the fear of God. This leads him to a specific existential threat. The locals will murder him to safely acquire his wife, Sarah. Using game theory, the tell truth branch presents the highest risk of failure. By selecting the alter data path, Abraham changes his status from a disposable threat to a valuable negotiator. King Abimelech intercepts this modified data without suspicion. Believing his actions are secure, he absorbs Sarah into his household. In a low-trust environment, altering data to manipulate an opponent's choices becomes a highly logical path to self-preservation. Abraham is operating on asymmetrical information, a scenario where he holds the true data, while Abimelech is forced to function on a corrupted set. His statement was a form of malicious compliance. Because Sarah was technically his half-sister, his claim was accurate on a granular level while being intentionally misleading. This shows the mechanics of the deception. By relying on a technicality, Abraham bypasses his internal moral filter while successfully deceiving his external target. The system eventually throws an error flag. God intervenes in a dream, warning Abimelech that the data he acted upon is fatal. Abimelech realizes that his actions, though based on what he thought was clean data, have triggered an existential threat to his kingdom. A sense of panic takes hold of the court as the realization of their corrupted reality sets in. A technically true statement, when deployed with deceptive intent, creates just as much systemic damage as an outright lie. Abimelech confronts Abraham, demanding a forensic audit of why this corrupted data was introduced into his kingdom. Abraham outlines his initial scan of the environment and the constant vulnerability of his wandering state. Abimelech restores Sarah and provides financial restitution to patch the damaged relationship and de-escalate the threat. Abraham then initiates a prayer that clears the error state, lifting the divine judgment off the kingdom and restoring the system to health. This raises the question of why foundational texts would meticulously preserve these embarrassing, glitchy stories. The narrative suggests that human ethics are not rigid, unbending laws, but fluid parameters highly susceptible to fear and external pressure. Analyzing these foundational historical figures requires looking closely at the hostile environments they were programmed to survive in. Moral endurance isn't the absence of system failures, but the capacity to audit, correct, and patch the system after a breakdown.